It's the morning after the night before, Hugh, and as a Man United fan, we had a quick chat before we started this, and I think the word seething kind of comes to mind. I'm going to give you the floor just to start off with, because, of course, Man United lost on penalties, 11-10 in the most ridiculous penalty shootout I think I've seen in a while, but possibly a sign of things to come when it comes to the Euros with not as many fans in the stadium. But that said, overall, Man United being huge favourites in this game, it was a massively disappointing result for the club, for the manager, and for the fans as well. Hugh, how do you feel after that game?
Abject failure is all that comes to mind. I mean, they were just pathetic, start to finish. Look, firstly, let me give credit to Villarreal. They're playing their first European final against Manchester United, one of the big names in world football. But they came exactly as advertised. Everything that we thought they would do in the build-up to the game, they did. They were going to be tight, hard to beat. They were going to work hard. They weren't going to string loads of passes together or have these free-flowing attacking moves. And Manchester United, it was almost like they didn't come prepared. After the match, Unai Emery was asked what the secret was to him winning his fourth Europa League title. He said, deep analysis of 17 Manchester United matches. It didn't look like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had watched a single Villarreal match, to be perfectly honest. I mean, and this is the thing, you spoke about Ryan Mason at Spurs being a competition winner. These are the matches that make Ole Gunnar Solskjaer look like he's got lost on his way to play five-a-side with his mates and stumbled into the dugout at Old Trafford. Because I just don't understand how you can go into a European final and perform like that. Unai Emery was in a huddle with his players, motivating them as they went into extra time. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sat in the dugout while Darren Fletcher was on the pitch doing all of the talking. Where is the manager? Everyone at Manchester United, from the manager to the executive vice chairman, to the players in the squad, to the ex-players who are pundits on TV and on the radio right now, every single one of them is absolutely delusional about where Manchester United are and where they're going. There's a reality here. You can't just keep saying you're the best and biggest club in the world and think that you're just going to win titles. It's now 4 years without a title for Manchester United for good reason. They haven't put the infrastructure in place, the training ground, the stadium. They haven't recruited well enough. They haven't appointed well enough in terms of the hierarchy and the managers at the club. And they don't have enough talent in the first team, despite what the players will tell you, to win the biggest trophies. Yes, I'll say this as a Manchester United fan. There has been improvement this year, but the final against Villarreal was all the old symptoms that we've seen in their poorest performances. They didn't start well enough. They find it extremely difficult to create and break down teams that sit deep, and there was no desire, there was no heart. And that, my friends, is not the Manchester United that won 3 European Cups, of the Busby Babes, of Best Law and Charlton. Stop dreaming. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
I'm done. I'm done.
Stunning. Yeah, well, do you know what? I don't want to poke the beast here, but there are some elements of this where I feel like maybe it's just because I'm a neutral on this one. I don't have that same strong feeling for Man United. I think you're right in terms of the sort of the 10%, that little bit of magic that gets you from kind of drawing these games to going and winning these games, and maybe that energy that you get from a Klopp or a Guardiola or a Tuchel. Maybe you're not seeing that with Solskjaer. But for me, I've got to say, with this game specifically, I think it's on the players. I think it is a bottle job. I think it is a massive L for Manchester United as a club. But to put this on Solskjaer, I feel that this final specifically, personally, I feel like that's a little bit harsh, just because I feel like that's the team that I would have picked, that I think most Man United fans would have picked, because you're going to play a team that is going to defend for their lives. There's going to be no space in between. And so you're going to have creative players on the pitch. But the players themselves, when it gets to a cup final, you have to raise your level to go and win those cup finals. And I think Solskjaer's played this way throughout the season. And in the 90 minutes, there's been a huge focus on the subs. And I'm happy to explore that. But the game should have been won in 90 minutes, and the game should have been won with those players on the pitch. I thought Pogba and McTominay played pretty well. I think Bruno Fernandes deserves a bit of a heat on this one, because in the first half, he kept drifting over to the left-hand side, getting in the way of Pogba, Rashford and Shaw, and should have stayed out the way. In the second half, they did, but still, like you say, that 10%, that little bit of magic, that's got to come from experienced players at this point. Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, had a very poor game for someone who, yes, of course, his strongest talent is those diagonal runs and that pace, but he's got great feet as well. He needs to play better in this game. Could Pogba do a little bit more and create a little bit more? Could Cavani do better? I think that the players have to take the bulk of the heat for this one, because what else could Solskjaer have done with the starting lineup or at half time? In extra time, fatigue, I get it, I understand. But again, look at that bench. You've got two goalkeepers on that bench. You've got Brandon Williams, who you're not going to take Luke Shaw off for. You've got Harry Maguire, a centre-back, who you're not going to bring on because he's injured. Then further forward up, you've got Juan Mata, Daniel James. You might bring him on for Mason Greenwood, fine. But there aren't a lot of options there. The one option that I would say, and I think this is where Solskjaer does have to take some heat, is Donny van de Beek. Why is he even at the club at this stage? You spend that kind of money on him. And then when you look at a bench that feels a little bit weak, you've got all these players, these starting stars, and Solskjaer was afraid to take them off. Do you agree with that? And what do you think about the lineup?
First things first, let's not pretend that Manchester United's bench wasn't strong enough for this match. I think that's just ridiculous. I don't think there's a starting player in Villarreal's team that would walk into Manchester United starting 11.
I think it's different, because I think with this, it's as good as that bench is for another club. If you're going to bring one of these players on, you have to take off Pogba or Fernandes or Cavani or whoever those players are. That's the problem that Solskjaer has, I think.
There were 5 subs made by Unai Emery and Villarreal during the 90 minutes. The likes of Moi Gomez, Paco Alcacer, Alberto Moreno. Do not tell me that Manchester United didn't have 5 players on the bench who could have competed with the 5 players who came on for Villarreal, who weren't even in the Spanish side starting 11. To pretend that there wasn't a game changer or enough quality on that bench is ridiculous. It's frankly ridiculous.
My point is, it's about improving that starting 11. So in the 90 minutes, I think once it gets to extra time, he has to make changes because there's fatigue there. But prior to that, I'm not sure.
But here's the thing, you can't just, and you're oversimplifying football. It's not about putting the 11 best players in your squad on the pitch and thinking that's going to be enough to win you football matches. You need something different. The reason that the best teams in the world don't just have great players, but they have great managers, is because you can get 10, 15% from that manager's decisions. The starting lineup itself meant there was no game changer on the bench, and that was the manager's decision. He put every single player who could have possibly changed the game in his starting 11, and he shoehorned them in. Let's be frank about this. Paul Pogba has never played a good game for Manchester United as a deep lying midfielder. Never, not a single game. He's never had that controlling element. He was hitting 50-yard balls. He was switching play straight off into the first row. He's just not comfortable there. He hasn't played his best football there for his country. He wasn't great there for Juventus. He played in a more attacking role. And the interesting thing about it is, Paul Pogba, playing off the left-hand side, has been really creative. He's been one of the few players at Manchester United that you would say, against a team that's going to defend deep, he might be able to pick out that special pass and unlock something. And instead, he was put basically protecting Bailly and Lindelof as a holding midfielder. That is a ridiculous decision from the manager, as was starting either Mason Greenwood or Marcus Rashford, because one of them could have come off the bench and changed the game. Those were all of his choices. Yes, I do believe the players have to take some responsibility in terms of their approach, their desire. The second ball was dropping. There was always a yellow head, yellow foot on it every single time. Villarreal would swarm around the ball, and Manchester United, they weren't like that. Not at any point, really. I mean, afterwards, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer played tribute to Scott McTominay. I think that was a sign. He was saying that is the player that came with the right commitment in my team. And I think he was really saying, I'm disappointed with the desire, the heart, the tenacity of the rest of the players out there. Maybe there was complacency from Manchester United. Maybe they thought they were just going to show up and win the game. If there was, that still for me comes down to the manager, making sure he's got the message right. You have to go out there and win this game. Nothing's going to be handed to you. It was all wrong on the night. And I'm not just saying this as an angry Manchester United fan. There will be neutrals watching this video right now who agree with me, and there'll be Manchester United fans that agree with me. You could say every factor on the evening, multiple factors on the evening were wrong from Manchester United. And that's why I say, unless you get many of these things right, all of your approaches right, every single detail right, you're not going to win major European finals. Yeah. And Unai Emery, who's done it before, he knew that. He knew, and we all said it beforehand, if Villarreal put in the perfect performance, they'll beat Manchester United. He worked out what their perfect performance was, and they executed it on the night. And that was the difference.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely merit in a lot of what you're saying there. I think broadly, like, it's a disaster really for Man United to not be winning that game. And I think the most frustrating thing I would imagine for all Man United fans is if if you pick up Villarreal, put them in the Premier League, and make this a game in November, it's probably a game. It's a similar game to playing Sheffield United, and you go and you wipe the floor with them in the big moments, in the big games. Those players have gone missing. And I think you're right. It's about answers. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's his job to have the answers. And he didn't last night.
But what I would say about that is it probably would have gone exactly the same way, in that Manchester United would have started the game slowly. They would have gone behind from a set piece. They would have had to dig themselves out of trouble. That's the same thing that's happened to Manchester United for the past 2 seasons. And as I say, there's been improvements this year. I'll give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer credit for that. But he hasn't stamped out that sort of performance completely, and he's got to find an answer to why.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.